Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Dominion Online Championships. Our first board here has quite a few things that you have to take note of. The first thing that I looked at was Young Witch and the Bane, of course. Young Witch is a powerful cursor. Bane is Smugglers here, which is not the best Bane. You still might want a Smugglers though. Anyway, we have a couple trashing options on the board in Forager and Junk Dealer, and my initial thought was to go Young Witch and Silver on the opening here to try to get the Junk Dealer as quickly as possible. I decide not to do that because I would be delaying my trashing by a shuffle. So I choose instead to get the Forager straight away, and I am going to pick up a Silver alongside the Forager to try to get the Junk Dealer. Young Witch is better than the Forager for getting to Junk Dealer, but maybe it might still work out. Now I see my opponent open with a Forager and a Young Witch here. Makes me consider whether or not I want to open double Forager. I decide against it and stick to my Forager Silver plan looking for the Junk Dealer. So this hand here tells me I'm not getting Junk Dealer in this shuffle, which is a bit of a concern. 4 here could be a Young Witch for me, but I do decide to get another Forager to try to deal with the curses coming in plus my starting cards, and we'll talk about why it is I want to trash cards out of my deck soon. So my opponent trashes here on turn 4, meaning his Young Witch missed the shuffle, which is nice for me. And on 3 here, I am going to pick up a Smugglers, mostly as a Bane for my opponent's Young Witch. Now in this game, I underestimated the usefulness of Smugglers. I picked it up initially as a Bane and to occasionally pick up things, but you'll see later on how much of a role it played. Now 6 for my opponent. He gets up to 6 with the Young Witch, so that is something that I wanted to have happen to me there, but he gets 6 with his Young Witch and Silvers, and he gets a gold straight away, so it tips me off, or it points me in the direction that he wants to play some kind of quickish money strategy on this board. He now has a second Young Witch, a couple Silvers and a gold, just the one Forager, not too much trashing. So it seems like he wants to play to get a lot of Silvers and golds and just tackle the provinces. The Silvers and the golds will pull down Aqueduct points, so he'll get a little extra reward for doing so. So now I see him going back for a Junk Dealer, which I happily smuggle. So now I have a couple Foragers and a couple Junk Dealers in my deck. I feel very safe against my opponent's Young Witch. The curses coming in from it, that is. However, I don't quite have enough money to buy nice things yet. I would like to get up to 5 here. Forum, it would be an excellent card for me to see right now. And I wouldn't mind picking up a Merchant Guild. So I'm saying all these things, and I'll explain what my idea was looking at the board from the beginning. There is reward for getting thin here, in that you can play lots of Groundskeepers and maybe get a Forager plus a Merchant Guild into play. That's 3 buys. You have 5 Groundskeepers in play. You could get 15 points just from buying green cards, and we have an extra pile of green cards on the board. Gardens. Briefly entertained whether or not a garden strategy was possible, but Groundskeeper I think says no to that. You could just get way too many points off Groundskeeper. So my opponent goes for a Triumph here, mostly to take points off the Aqueduct, I believe, but I don't think you have to do that. I don't think you have to chase after points so quickly. There's a stack of 10 Groundskeepers looking at you there. You don't really have to worry about 5 or however many was on the Aqueduct at that point. Now I said that I did have 4 trashers in the deck, but my opponent's Young Witches are still causing bitter problems for me. I'm still not able to get up to gold. I really wish I was able to smuggle one of my opponent's gold, but I have not been able to do so yet. He does pick up a Forum here, he or she, I have no idea. They do get a Forum here, which I happily smuggle, so the Smugglers is already pulling its weight. And on 5 here, I consider picking up a second Forum for the reshuffle. I'm still not clean, I still have a few curses and a lot of coppers, and perhaps second Forum is better than the Groundskeeper at that point. I could wait a little bit until I get Groundskeeper. like in this shuffle, for example. So as a consequence of me not cursing my opponent with the Young Witch, not playing with it at all, he's able to have hands like this a lot earlier than I am. I still have to deal with a lot of curses. I don't have a filtering card like the Young Witch to draw me into my nice treasures. No province for my opponent, instead gets another gold, which I think is wise. Even with the singular forum in his deck, if he had started going for green cards so quickly, he would start to run into some serious problems quite early on into the game here. So this is a slightly unfortunate forum, but I am going to trash a silver here to power up my foragers. I do have the extra forager, so it seems like I would make more use of a forager that gives 2 coins instead of 1. Now we have 7 here, and I go for a forum at this point. I considered gold, I considered groundskeeper. I really considered gold a lot more strongly than groundskeeper. I really want the gold. I would like to be able to buy nice things. My ideal turn, or something close to ideal anyway, would be 2 buys and 10 coins. That's double groundskeeper, groundskeeper guild, forum groundskeeper. With the forum around, you don't need the buy to buy the things, but if I want 2 groundskeepers, for instance, I can do so with the 10 and 2 buys. I don't have 10. I'm really struggling for money in this middle part of the game here, and that is because of the Young Witch. The Young Witch. So while I ignored it up front, it certainly slowed me down quite a bit. Now I smuggle out my opponent's Wine Merchant. I don't really have a problem with that. I don't have too many terminals in my deck. In fact, Smugglers and Wine Merchant are the only two. And I pick up our Gardens here because I was honestly tired of picking up silver. I picked up 3 or 4 silvers, and I did hit 6 once, but I didn't want to buy a gold for whatever reason. I felt the forum was more important, which I think it is. But I really was fed up of purchasing silver, and I just decided to get our Gardens instead. It takes Aqueduct points. It provide something for my foragers to eat. Is like 2 coins is what I was thinking of it there. Perhaps silver is still better at that point in the game, maybe even our second smugglers, but I decided to go with the gardens. I feel like that's a bad play. Probably is a bad play. But anyways, I did it, and we're moving on. 8 for my opponent now, and he goes for a groundskeeper. So this is now the middle part of the game. This is what we are going to be doing, going after groundskeeper. So I started in on them first, and then my opponent followed me on them. I do have the smugglers. He does not have the smugglers, which means I should be able to get ahead on the groundskeeper split if I see my smugglers often enough. So smuggling 1 here, picking up another. So it's 2 for 1. If I could keep that up, then we should be good on the groundskeeper split. Another curse from the Young Witch. So 4 curses are left in the pile. So I've taken 6 curses, which is not insignificant at all, and it really has slowed me down. So definitely the Young Witch opening, even though smugglers is a useful Bane, is really something to consider on this board, it seems. Now I'm going to get rid of the Forage on the Gardens here because I want to put Thick Merchant on the mat to get 2 Groundskeepers. I'm not overly concerned about pulling them off the mat. If I have an opportunity to do so, I will, but I'm not going to go out of my way to take him off the mat. The Smugglers, I believe, is still useful. Soon it won't be useful when my opponent starts to take provinces, but until that time, like here, he still picks up our forum and the last groundskeeper. I could get our forum for, well, close to free anyway, and I'll happily take it. I'll happily take it. The forums are very important to this deck because it allows you to put all your groundskeepers into play. This deck has no draw, right? So you're stuck with at most 5 cards in your hand. So what could happen potentially without the forum is you play 3 groundskeepers, trying to forage on some money, and you're done, right? Even though you have more than 3 groundskeepers in your deck, for instance. But the forum allows you to find all your groundskeepers, and that is very important, especially for me, because I have less money than my opponent. He has more, but I do have more groundskeepers than him, so I really want to use my advantage as much as possible. So here, case in point, right? 13 and 2 buys, 2 goals. I have not achieved this once, and I don't think I can achieve this much money in this deck. and he goes for province and another forum. So far the points are kind of close. I did pick up a triumph on my last turn, and this is where the smugglers comes in. So for instance, I just like the merchant guild will provide an extra buy, the smugglers provides an extra gain. And one thing the smugglers can gain, and the merchant guild may not necessarily be able to do, is gain green cards. So duchies, estates, gardens, and I can gain them and get points of the groundskeeper off of them, and that is the key difference between the smugglers and the merchant guild. In fact, smugglers might just downright be better than merchant guild on the board. Stocking up coin tokens is quite nice, but being able to get, what if I smuggle a green card here, I get 6 extra points. 6 extra points just for that. And I think I'm gonna make the forum play again here. Not the forum, the triumph play again here. I smuggled a forum off my opponent, picking up an estate. There's 2 cards. Triumph means I gain 3. So I get 3 extra points from the triumph plus 12 from the 2 estates. Brilliant, brilliant. Groundskeeper is such a strong card. So many points is locked up in Groundskeeper, especially if you have plus buy or some kind of gain. Immense. So I have the split, the Groundskeeper split 6-4. Last turn was, I managed to see all of them. Thank you forums for that. And hopefully I can keep replicating turns like this. So another province for my opponent, but it really doesn't matter, because if I have good turns, I can score 6 points from just my groundskeepers. I do kill a junk dealer here. I believe its time has come. I don't really want them in the deck. They just take up space. They're kind of like rats at this point, where you don't want to play them because your deck is full of nearly good cards. So I kill one junk dealer with another, and I plan to kill the remaining one with a forager when given the opportunity. Now by this point in the game, I had forgotten Mr. Wine Merchant on the mat. I do recall him at some point later and free him, because he is kind of important. That's 4 coins and an extra buy there. Again, the Groundskeeper loves the extra buy, the extra gain somehow. So it is perhaps worth my time to free him if given the opportunity, and I should have been considering that from before, of course. So here my opponent goes for province and triumph, I believe, netting quite a bit of points. He managed to see all 4 of his groundskeepers on that turn, so quite a good turn for him with the 11 and 2 buys. So I don't have as much money as him, as I mentioned before, but I do have the groundskeepers, and as long as there's green cards on the board, I feel like I'm in a decent position here. He does have quite a few points on me. In the lead is what I mean here. So he has 41 to my 28, but I'm second player and this is my turn here. So we'll see how much I get up to at the end of this turn. Unfortunately, I cannot play this groundskeeper. Well, I choose not to play it because I do not want to trigger a shuffle at this point. So I just get rid of it. I'll have to just take 5 VP here instead of the 6. Now I smuggle an estate, so that's 5 VP from the groundskeepers, and I considered taking the wine merchant off the mat here, but instead I decided to buy an estate and then use triumph to gain the last estate. A lot of points of the groundskeepers, but it also denies my opponent future triumph plays. So I took 15 points of the groundskeepers there, and look, I'm at 49 points, just like that, just like that. And with no debt too. My opponent had to repay debt last turn. So down goes the smugglers. He didn't get anything last turn, so there's no use for the smugglers at this point in the game. And now with 6 and 2 buys, I go for gardens here because guess who's coming back into the game? Wine merchant, hooray! Not a bad terminal to have, really. I could see both Wine Merchant and Merchant Guild really, but the Smugglers has been tremendous so far, really tremendous, netting a lot of VP honestly, and especially with the estates out, my opponent might try to get duchies and gardens, and he has to really be worried about me smuggling. I do have the extra forum to him too, largely in part to the Smugglers honestly. Here goes province and duchy for my opponent. So if I'm able to seal my groundskeepers and the smugglers, we'll have a field day. We'll have an absolute field day. And the groundskeeper split is just completely negating any province that he buys, really. He does have some groundskeepers, of course. Does have some groundskeepers, but I'm just able to smuggle and buy green cards every single turn and get 5 or 6 victory points. It just completely overrides the provinces that he buys. So the best I'm able to do here really is to get one forager into play and to smuggle something. I can't really play both foragers because then I won't have too much money in my hand. Look, I'm struggling for money here. I only have 5. I decided to go for gardens instead of the duchy because I feel like the gardens will be worth at least as much as the duchy by the time the game ends. Probably not the best thing. Probably it should have still been duchy because I am trashing one card out of my deck every time I play the forager, which is nearly every turn. So perhaps the duchy is better there, but whatever. Now I have a massive points lead thanks to the groundskeepers. I do kill this duchy here just to buy it back, honestly, alongside our gardens. Get a couple extra points from the groundskeeper doing that. And I'm more than happy here to just go after duchies and gardens until the game is over. And talking about game over, my opponent buys a forum here. A forum. He probably doesn't want me to smuggle 5 or 6 victory points. So he gets the forum instead, but that opens up a 3 pile for me if I'm able to see enough money, plus my smugglers. Or just enough money and 2 buys, honestly, but I don't have 10 and 2 buys, so I can't string together 10 and 2 buys. For the majority of this game, I was lacking in money compared to my opponent. So I really need to just find the 5 and the smugglers, but I don't. Of course I don't, that would be too easy, right? But I'm still going to take the forum here, set me up for a game win a little bit later, and gardens for the points, and an estate, not an estate, a copper to hopefully try to boost my gardens, should I need to do so, but there's 23 points between us. I don't think he can get enough points, and I have the $5 here that I was desperately looking for on the last turn to buy the last forum for the win. So a very interesting game here. My opponent had more money, I had more groundskeepers, and I came out on top. I think the groundskeeper split was the key thing here. Unfortunately, I was able to win it and win the game. The provinces didn't matter. As long as you could keep buying green cards with 5 or 6 in play, you're good. Triumph, Smugglers, underrated in this game. Alright, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.